Ramily, the 2026 rookie class for the Rams is fully set with the draft picks and the UDFAs. Today, on this episode of the Rams Report, presented by Prize Picks, we're going to take a look at the 90-man roster and project the depth chart at every single position for your Los Angeles Rams. We're going to roll through every spot from quarterback all the way to our special teamers and talk about everybody and all of the new additions that the Rams made this offseason, both in the draft and in free agency. But before we get to all that fun, help us out today. Help support the show by dropping a like. We've got a goal of getting to 250 likes. Guys, we cleared 400 on a video during the draft, so 250 should be a piece of cake for the Ramily today. Drop a like on today's video and help us hit our goal. And let's take a look at our first depth chart. We're going to start with the most important position in football, also where we spent our first round pick this season for the first time since 2016. The Rams drafting a first round quarterback, obviously Ty Simpson with the 13th overall pick. And this, I think, is maybe what it should look like. If I was setting the depth chart, this is what I would do. I would have Stafford as QB1. I'd have Ty Simpson as QB2. I'd have Stetson as QB3. And we'll see if Matthew Caldwell makes the roster. I honestly don't think he will. Obviously, the undrafted free agent out of Texas. But what might happen, guys, is the Rams may use Stetson Bennett as a buffer to avoid controversy this offseason. In Los Angeles, in the media market that is, with a first-round draft pick on your roster, you do not want your veteran, 18-year veteran, reigning MVP quarterback to be dealing with a narrative about, oh, is Ty Simpson going to potentially get some action this year? As dumb as it is, you don't want any chance that that narrative gets going. And so to prevent it, and look, we've seen the Rams be very protective of Stafford throughout this process. I think that influenced the way they handled the opening press conference, the much microscoped opening press conference. And I don't think it would be beyond the pale that they would say, hey, Stetson Bennett is actually QB2. Ty Simpson is QB3. We're not going to see Ty Simpson at all this season. If it does come down to it, it's going to be Stetson. And maybe if it actually did push came to shove, it would actually be Ty. But I think to prevent that narrative from getting going, you have to put Stetson as QB2. If that's what the Rams feel, and it does truly seem that that is what they feel. They do not want Ty Simpson to be a story. They do not want Ty Simpson to be even seemingly breathing down Matthew Stafford's neck. But let's focus on another position on this roster here in just a second. Obviously, the Ty Simpson discussion dominating a lot of our coverage lately. But don't worry, guys. We are going to talk about the rest of the roster today. Next up is going to be our running back room. And what specifically is Jarquez Hunter's role in year two going to be is going to be a huge part of that conversation. I know that's something that a lot of Rams fans are wondering. But before we get to that, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is our friends at Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. If you guys love daily fantasy sports or you just want to make watching sports even more exciting, you've got to try out Prize Picks. And it's a great time to get started too with the NBA playoffs in full swing and the baseball season well underway. There's just no better place to cash in on all that action than Prize Picks. Just pick 2 to 6 players and select more or less on their stat projections to put together your lineup, whether it's points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers, or others across all sports. Like if you're going for baseball, you could choose from hits, home runs, or maybe even strikeouts. It's super easy to do. And they also have awesome social features. Guys, if you're not looking to put together a lineup today, if you don't know what you want to go after, just check out what your friends are up to on the social features or your favorite creators, including me and producer Mike. I'm on there, Jackson Durham with no spaces, Mike's Mike Giraputo with no spaces, and you guys could drop a follow and see all of our lineups, including this one that I've got going with Prize Picks' season-long picks. We went with the moron Kenyon Sadiq, the moron Jordan Tyson, and the more on Caleb Downs. I always tell you guys this, life is too short to ever take the less. So you guys could tell me on this lineup, you could fade me on this lineup, whatever you do, just do it with our friends at PrizePicks. And if you're a new user, download the PrizePicks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with PrizePicks. The clickable link to download the app is in the comments and the description. So, back to Jarquez Hunter and Ronnie Rivers as well, because you can't talk about Jarquez Hunter and what his role might be in year 2 without also talking about Ronnie, who the Rams brought back in March of this year. A move that surprised me a lot. And I told you guys at the time that it surprised me too, because it doesn't say great things about what Jarquez's role might ultimately be on this football team, especially as you head into next year. And I don't know why he's missing from the RB depth chart now that I take a look at it. I don't actually see his name there, but he would be right beneath Ronnie, in my opinion, and just ahead of Dean Connors, our undrafted free agent that we brought in. Ronnie and him are going to compete for a very small workload in this offense. And I was talking to Nico the other day from LA Football Network about this same competition. And I think one thing that we both agree on is Ronnie may have the inside track. He had the inside track last year, and it's primarily because of what he's able to contribute on the special teams front. Now, does Bubba Ventrone see it the same way? Does he see special teams value in Jarquez that could potentially lift him up? Does he not see special teams value in Ronnie that could potentially push him down? I don't know. We're going to find out throughout this season. Bubba wasn't there when they brought back Ronnie Rivers. That hire had not been made yet, so he was not influential on that decision. But it is clear the Rams felt a need to bring back Ronnie Rivers. And so in this conversation, I have to lean Ronnie. And remember, we're talking about a very small workload on this roster. 98.2% of the total carries given to running backs last season went to 2 guys, and they are Kyren Williams and Blake Corum. But in your opinion, who is RB3? Is it Ronnie Rivers, who I think offers some special teams value and saw 9 carries last season, or is it Jarquez Hunter? I think it's Ronnie, guys, and if you agree with me, drop a like on today's video. But a similar conversation can be had about the receiver room, and I think that one is maybe more intense because it's more important. At the end of the day, the third receiver spot is similarly small in the Rams offense, given how much we use 13 personnel and have 3 tight ends on the field rather than having 3 receivers. But when we do, that guy's going to get solid volume. There's 4 guys that feel like real contenders to play this role. Number 1, and I ordered them by production last season. Obviously, CJ Daniels was not on the roster last season, so he has no production last season. But it may surprise you that much maligned Xavier Smith led this group last year in receiving yards. He was incredibly efficient on the work that they did give him. He kind of ended up replacing Tutu Atwell in the role of deep threat for this offense. But does that hold going into this season? Is it Jordan Whittington's job to lose? I think so. At the end of the day, I think Whittington is likely to take this receiver 3 job, and I think it's really more between him and Konate Muttfield, who showed me a lot of flashes last season, guys. I think Muttfield has an opportunity to compete with Whittington, to both push past Xavier Smith, to both establish solid roles in this offense, and compete to be that receiver 3. CJ Daniels, I think he's going to factor in as well to this conversation, maybe more so as the year goes on. Remember, it's not the end of the world if CJ Daniels is not a contributor as a rookie. He was a 6th-round draft pick, A. A lot of those guys aren't going to be contributors in their NFL career at all. I'm not saying that's coming for CJ Daniels. But remember, the McVay offense is a difficult one to learn. It is an incredibly complex one. It takes time to get there. So if CJ Daniels isn't a contributor in year 1, that's okay. Neither was Kyren Williams, and he's been a fantastic piece of this offense in his time in Los Angeles. He was also a day 3 draft pick. So, hey, that's something else they have in common. But let's move on to our tight end room. Let's talk about the new faces joining that one. Not too many new faces in the receiver room, just CJ Daniels this year, but a couple guys in the tight end room. Max Klare Klare joining as a second-round draft pick, obviously our second pick of the draft this year, and the second year in a row in which we've used a second-round pick on a tight end. I know it's a point of contention for a lot of you guys out there. Rohan Jones is also coming in here as well as an undrafted free agent, and Dan Valeri is coming in as an undrafted free agent as well. So those three guys all on the roster, and I think I realize here the ones I put under tight end 1 are not showing, which is why Max Klare and Rohan Jones are not going to show on this one either, but they would both be, in my opinion, above Davis Allen, or actually Rohan Jones is there, but Max Klare I would have above Davis Allen. I would have Max Klare as tight end 4 in this offense right now, with Colby Parkinson still as your tight end 1, Terrence Ferguson as your tight end 2, and Tyler Higbee as tight end 3. I think Klare will battle with Higbee to continue kind of pushing him to earn that opportunity in this offense as he shows flashes, but I do think this season at tight end is about Colby, and it's really about Terrence. What can Terrence show to take over this room? I want to, at the end of this year, be able to tell you guys that Terrence Ferguson is the tight end 1 of this team. He needs to take that job away from Colby so we don't have to bring Colby back next season, because cap crunch is getting there on this team. It's not that I don't want to keep Colby because I don't like Colby. It's we can't afford to keep Colby because too much money has to go to other more important spots, and Terrence has to win the job. Terrence has to show us we don't need to keep Colby. That is what I'm looking for from the tight end room in 2026, even more so than Max Klare maybe showing flashes as a rookie. Moving on to the O-line. Obviously, the big boys up front, I think they're underappreciated. We're going to try to avoid that today. We got 4 new faces in the offensive line group. Keegan Trost, who, again, I'm really excited about. Keagen coming in out of Missouri to play potentially a number of different positions for this team. Austin Blaskey and Chad Lindbergh both coming in by way of North Carolina. Blaskey likely to play center. Lindbergh will fit in at one of the guard spots. And then you got Bryce Henderson, who is a very interesting piece out of Vanderbilt. Crazy size on this dude. We didn't talk about him in the UDFA tracker video. That's honestly my bad. I should have mentioned him a little bit more. He's 6'8", well over 300 pounds, limited athletically. He really struggled taking that step up from South Dakota State to Vanderbilt last season as a transfer, but somebody to keep an eye on. He kind of reminds me of Alaric Jackson in terms of just like the same sort of limited athlete, but somebody who could potentially develop in our scheme with the way we use our tackles. But here's what I think the offensive line will look like. Here's my starting 5. It is the exact same starting 5 from last year. Alaric Jackson, I think, is going to fill your left tackle spot. Steve Avila is going to fill that left guard spot, or at least the same starting 5 that we finished last year with. All right, Coleman Shelton will go into center. Kevin Dotson, Big K-Dot, I think the best piece on that offensive line at right guard, and Warren McClendon filling that right tackle spot as your starter. Trost I have in as the backup at right tackle, but I think there's a good chance that he is the number 1 backup for every spot along the line other than center. I think that's one of the things that you love about Keegan Trost as a player is his ability to fill in so many different spots if an injury was to come up for you. So think about that with him, as he's kind of like extra depth at every spot, although we do just have him in at right tackle. Flipping sides. Let's go to the defense. Let's talk about our new additions along the defensive line, and we kind of included the pass rushers here as well. We got Tim Keenan coming in, 7th-round defensive tackle. Peyton Zadroy coming in as an undrafted free agent, and Wesley Bailey coming in, and Eddie Walls as well, also as an undrafted free agent. Here is the list depth chart for the pass rushers, at least as I think it's going to shake out. Again, not major changes here. Pretty much everyone coming in to this room is either a very late draft pick or an undrafted free agent. I don't think those guys are likely to play significant roles in year 1. Zadroik maybe seeing a little bit of action in pass rush situations or garbage time. Tim Keenan likely on the field if it's an obvious rundown. I don't think and we talked about that with him when we first drafted him. He's not going to present you a ton of value as a pass rusher, but he can fill some run gaps for you. He can do that, but I don't think, again, that he's going to really even have an opportunity to develop into that pass rush style. Wesley Bailey, really good athlete out of Louisville, but again, an undrafted free agent who just wasn't that productive at the ACC level, so tough to project him breaking into a tough defensive line room. And then switching more towards inside linebacker, only 2 additions to talk about in the inside linebacker room. Grant Stewart coming mostly to be a special teamer, somebody that Bubba Ventrone is very familiar with. So I don't really consider him even, obviously he'll be part of that linebacker rotation. If an injury was to come up, you can force him in there, but I think he's mostly there to lead that special teams unit, someone that he trusts as a leader. But Nikhai Hill-Green came in as an undrafted free agent, and I think he, among our UDFA class, and it's a UDFA class that's going to face an uphill battle to make this roster. This is one of the deepest rosters in the entire NFL, and it was that before you signed any of these undrafted free agents. So everybody's facing an uphill battle, but Nikhai has a chance to hang on here because, in my opinion, he fills a role for you in terms of coverage linebacker. He, I think, could realistically have a chance to be one of the better coverage linebackers on this entire depth chart from day one. He thrived in that role at Alabama at the highest level of college football, and coverage, we just don't have any really good coverage linebackers right now. So I think if there is a path for him to hanging on this roster, it's showing, hey, I can match up with tight ends over the middle. I can match up with running backs over the middle. I can take away the middle of the football field. The guys in the office were messing with me today. They put on the Week 16 game between the Rams and the Seahawks, and that final 2-point conversion, what happened? A.J. Barner gets wide open in the middle of the field because our linebackers didn't pick him up. There was nobody there to cover him. That's where Nikhai Hill-Green fits in for you, I think. Maybe that play goes a little bit differently. I hate to bring that memory up for you guys, but they brought it up for me today, so blame the guys out there. All right, you want Nikhai Hill-Green to make the final 53? Like today's video for me. Slap a like on it if you want to root on Nikhai Hill-Green to making this roster. I absolutely think he can. Let's talk about one more position group here, defensive backs. This is the one where we brought in a lot of folks this year, and understandably so. Wasn't a great unit last season. Obviously, the 2 big boys, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson in free agency. We have sung their praises a lot, and I think rightfully so. They are going to make a huge impact on this team from day one. But we also have 3 undrafted free agents to discuss in this room as well. Nazir Forkurin, he comes in from Wisconsin. He, as an undrafted free agent, likely projects as depth in a slot corner room. Dre Norwood coming over from Missouri, more of an outside corner. And then Nick Anderson, he's a safety by way of Vanderbilt. So let's take a look at how this room should shake out, in my opinion. Again, a room that feels pretty static to what I've shown you guys from free agency. This has been similar to what we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks here. Trent McDuffie is your clear number 1. Jalen Watson across from him as corner number 2. Quentin Lake should hold down that nickel spot like he was last season. Our safeties feel set, in my opinion. I think really the biggest question here is who makes the end of the roster and who stands out behind Emmanuel Forbes. Is anyone capable of pressing Emmanuel Forbes for corner 3? Is Cam Lampkin capable of that? Is Josh Wallace capable of that? Or any of the UDFA is going to be a surprise? Something to watch over this offseason, because they really didn't add too much after or in the draft to this room after free agency. So trusting what they did in free agency seems to be the theme here. And then just a quick look at the special teams depth chart. No real change here. I don't know if Xavier Smith plays the punt returner role this season. Obviously, we all know that there was major controversy with that last year, but I don't really know who to slide in there above it right now. So for now, Xavier Smith is going to remain the punt returner. Obviously, they used Kyron in the NFC Championship, but you can't tell me they're going to do that long term. They're not going to put him in that role. But we'll figure that out as the season goes, as we'll figure out everything else around this Rams roster, and you know where to find all of the coverage on it right here on the Rams Report. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.